Welcome to Beyond the Ring, a podcast that covers all things in the stock show industry from the informative to the insane, starring Ryan Rash.
With God, all things are possible. The same goes for zip ties.
And Dale Hummel.
Mercy to the guilty is an injustice to the innocent.
Now on with the show.
Welcome to Beyond the Ring. This is Dale Hummel, along with co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello, hello, hello.
And Ryan, before we get started, we're just visiting with our producer, Clifton, and he's in South Carolina and some of the storms that went through that part of the world. I'd like to acknowledge the great sorrow to the many good families across Mississippi. It looks like it was hit really hard this past weekend that lost so much, including their lives from severe storms that ravaged that state from east to west. And we're thinking about you, and I hope things continue to improve for you. It looks like everybody's jumping in and helping out down there, so that's all positive. Other current events. You say you've had no news.
Well, I don't. My biggest news is, yes, very, very, very worried and concerned about our livestock families in Mississippi and that part of the country. Not concerned and very disappointed in the fact that you were not a victim of a spearfishing accident or a shark attack while you were in Belize. That is just crushing.
I would have to say when Katie jumps in the ocean with me and they give her a spear, literally,
and she did not stab you.
We went different directions just to make sure there were no issues. But no problem.
But I mean, I had to add out for new co-host people because I just knew you were going to be incapacitated.
Well, you'll be happy to know that my spear fishing, I did spear fish a fish. How does that sound? A fish. One is all I got. Nice. And there were hundreds of fish all around me. And this was a different spear than what we had used in Mexico, that you basically have a rubber band on it and you on the end of the spear. And I like it. It's easier to, you don't have to worry about getting it loaded. There's a lot of good things about it, but my ability to dive down and hold my breath and focus on those fish were too damn quick, I guess is the best way to put it. But I got one that was probably all of 2 inches long, and it wasn't even the fish I was aiming for.
Well, that makes you got one.
I did, but it was not. It was more like a fish stick if you were to cook it. It was nothing you could take home and have a meal from. But I do appreciate every time I return home, even though I love Belize and I like a lot of the destinations that we try to get to, there's always a greater appreciation for this country every time I go outside of, every time I travel internationally and come back. It's hard for me to explain, but just we have it very good here, and let's hope we can continue just that.
Well, we're going to continue. America is going to thrive. Do you want to know why?
Please tell.
Pocahontas, Senator Elizabeth Warren, is running for re-election, so we're all fine. Long as she gets elected again, we're all fine. It's fine.
I did see that this morning, and she made it clear that she did not support Biden in the last presidential race. Would that be accurate?
Yes, but she's only running for senator. She's not running for president.
Oh, I thought she was running for president. Are you sure?
No. I don't think so.
Oh, I think maybe not. I saw it. It was in the background this morning. So yeah, I thought in my mind, I was going to bring it up. I thought that we're talking about she was running for president, but I believe you to be correct now that.
No, I'm reading it again to make sure. Warren's announcement puts to bed any latest speculation that she could mount a challenge to President Biden if he runs again in 2024. She's only running for Senate.
God, wouldn't it be better if she's running for president? Wouldn't you like to have her on stage again?
Oh, I love it when she gets up there and she tries to be an Indian and an African American.
I bet she'd come at it and from a different ethnic perspective this time.
I mean, she's all the things. She is not an old rich white lady of privilege. She is everything but that.
She is not.
Yeah, exactly.
I disagree with that, and I believe most people have now seen through that. But she'll probably.
Yeah, I disagree with it too. I'm being sarcastic, but yeah, she thinks she's everything. But
I do not even know what. This is how blind I am to. I don't know what state she's from.
Massachusetts.
Yes, that rings a bell now, and she'll probably get reelected.
In a landslide. But yeah. So the world's fine, the country's fine. She's going to be senator again. It's all great. So
has there been any news about TikTok?
Well, so Clifton, our producer, got very angry over the TikTok hearings, and he was giving me the 411 and Dale. Dale was not participating in our group chat on this, but
no, I deemed that group chat for that 24-hour period as a liberal chat room that I just had to leave. I couldn't do it.
So I was not able to watch it, but he was. And so they bring one of the higher ups of TikTok in there, and they don't know anything about TikTok. And they're just berating this dude and basically just yelling at him, not letting him answer questions. And it was bipartisan. But the whole point is they know nothing about TikTok and they don't know how it works. So if you're like the average person watching this, you know that it's all stupid and dumb. Anyway, I don't think they made any headway other than the fact that the point that Clifton brought up, which I think is a good one, is like if they outlaw it or ban it or do all these other, whatever they think that they're going to do, that's basically regulating business. And I know that you don't like that China owns it and all this other stuff and whatever. I get that. And I'm not saying that they're not gathering information, but they can gather the same information and other people are gathering the same information on 900 different platforms and apps and all this other stuff. They're not doing anything different than anybody else. It's just that China owns this and got everybody in uproar. I literally quit putting TikToks on my Snap story about a month ago because I was convinced this was going to be, banned. Here's whatever, all this other stuff. I don't know, but it's a mess. And Clifton believes, and I have a tendency to believe with him, that this is probably, depending on what actions they take, going to cause as much chaos as anything else, because it's like TikTok is the most popular app in the world right now.
Yes. And I agree with everything that you brought out, and particularly what Clifton's perspective was on the hearings. No question. I don't believe that those that were sitting there drilling on the TikTok CEO, that I don't know if they fully understand TikTok. I don't fully understand TikTok, but they apparently maybe didn't take the correct approach. I'm going to go with you and agree that China, somehow they could gather that information from Meta, Facebook, whatever you want to do, some of that same data that they're collecting. And I guess from an individual perspective, if people read which they don't, the policy of TikTok and agree to it, they're giving them permission to gather that data. And I believe that to be true. And I get it. Does anybody read it? Do they think about it? Very unlikely. And I don't think your 12-year-old child has any concept of it whatsoever. My issue is not so much that it is. I don't like them gathering that data. I prefer that nobody gathered that data, even Facebook and Instagram and social media companies owned by primarily U.S. businesses. My biggest worry is, I believe, and I saw a statistic, and I have not followed this while I was gone until I got back this morning. I looked into it just briefly, but 30% of the Americans under the age of 30 get their news from TikTok, and I believe that to be close to accurate. If I
that's
was
disturbing,
giving my perspective, it is, but I don't disagree with it, and I don't. Maybe it's not accurate, but I can tell you that my daughter's on TikTok. Katie is on it heavy. Chase doesn't even know what it is. I know people my age that are on TikTok, and that is their main source of news, and that concerns me.
I have never seen any news on TikTok before. There's hot cops.
Not necessarily. I'm not saying not our traditional news. And I guess that leads me to the point that I want to make. The algorithm that TikTok can use, and I promise you they are, and is it going to be absolute to make it blatantly obvious that there's an algorithm promoting certain things? No. But the fact that the Chinese Communist Party controls the narrative on TikTok and can push that narrative away from anything anti-China. They can push the political atmosphere here in the U.S. that they believe to benefit them. I do not like the fact that the Chinese Communist Party has that kind of influence because, as you stated, it is the most popular social media platform that I'm aware of, at least in the U.S. and I assume worldwide. That is a huge, huge push. And I wish social media did not have this much influence. And I wish individuals would take the time to research politicians and different topics of issue, but they're not going to. And the fact that the Chinese Communist Party can control this narrative, that's what concerns me about TikTok and Facebook and the other social media platforms. Twitter, until recently, was doing the same. We're all aware of these things happening, Ryan, just like Beyond the Ring. Every time I try to put something up on the Facebook page of Beyond the Ring that includes China or anything conservative from a political standpoint, it won't let that post go out. It'll usually block it from even going up. If it does go up, they severely restrict how many people get to see that. And that control of an algorithm that China has over a large, they're basically controlling what our population sees. And that concerns me. I'm all for less government, no question, less restrictions. And this bothers me because I don't know how to handle this other than the fact that China is our adversary and we have to be more proactive towards things such as this. And I could go on forever about things we need to do differently in terms of how we deal with China. But this is one of them. And this is a pretty big tool in their toolbox to influence the minds, especially of our youth. And that concerns me. And again, Facebook's doing the same thing. Instagram, other social media platforms are doing these. Snapchat, I'm sure, is gathering data. I don't know all the specifics of that. The difference is I would hope that we could at least start by doing something with a Chinese-influenced social media platform such as TikTok.
So I have to tell you that you're wrong. Because you clearly did not listen to John Kerry. Do you know who John Kerry is?
I'm aware of John Kerry, yes.
Okay.
Wasn't he the one that was in Vietnam? And
he just had an interview.
Or something?
He just had an interview. Now, he's secretary of something for Biden. It has to do with the environment, but I don't know what it is.
I think secretary of green initiatives. How's that?
I don't know what it is, but anyway, something like that. Anyway, he just had an interview and he basically, I'm going to sum it up because you said China is our adversary. You are wrong, sir. John Kerry said that regardless of what China and Russia are doing, we have to work with them and they have to be like, we have to forgive all the terrible things that Russia's doing in Ukraine and all the offensive, horrible things that China inflicts on its people and trying to around the world, all this other stuff, because China is the other largest world economy. We have to work with them regardless. We just have to look away from all these other things.
Now you're paraphrasing, but that's what he said, basically.
Yeah, that's basically what he said. Yeah.
I believe that. No, he's worried that the war in Ukraine and some of these other humanitarian atrocities that are being committed by China will take away from the attention of the Green movement. That's what I got last time I listened to him.
Yeah, I think this interview was yesterday. This weekend, it's big news right now. I was just like, oh God. But anyway, and then Trump is still not in jail. I don't know if you realize that, but he's still not in jail.
I was under that impression that it was being delayed.
So he thought he was getting arrested Tuesday, which and again, y'all know I'm all about Trump. The only thing that I can come up with this was why he thought he was getting arrested last Tuesday was because the New York AG had a meeting with law enforcement on all this bullshit on Monday. So I guess they thought he was getting arrested Tuesday. They were still supposed to have testimony and all this other stuff on Wednesday. So he clearly jumped the gun on that part. Then Wednesday, they canceled it. Thursday, they canceled it. Grand juries don't sit on Friday. They're supposed to convene today again. But through all these cancellations and all this other stuff, there is a large portion of the people that are following this, involved in this, on the ground, etc., that think that he is basically going to drop the case again, which I want to state that in this case, and I know he's got jurisdiction going on in Mar-a-Lago and January 6th from the DOJ, and there's some Georgia, election thing still going on. But in this case, with the Stormy Daniels and all this other stuff, and I may have said this last week, but I want to say this again. This was opened in 2019 in New York. They dropped it. The Federal Elections Commission opened a case. They dropped it. When Bragg got elected as Attorney General, he opened it up and dropped it. And now we're back. And he's opened it up again.
I would think the odds are he will drop it again, is my prediction as well.
I just don't understand. And then the other thing with Trump, which I think this is just, which I guess it's good because they're giving him press coverage again. But so he had a rally in Waco, and they think that he meant it was on the anniversary of the David Koresh nonsense. And they think he did that to be like a white supremacist or something. I don't. It's so stupid. But yeah, there you go.
The fact that he's getting more attention, because in my opinion, we went for many, many months with zero attention given to Trump on the media. And he's managed to work his way back in.
And I guess your boy, DeSantis, he I mean, again, if he's going to run, just announce. This is stupid. But anyway, he's now firing back. He said some things about Trump and all of his lawsuits and all this other stuff. So again, I'm not saying he's not going to run. I just don't understand why if he hasn't run, if he's going to run, why he's announced. But he is now slinging mud too. So here we go.
I think the whole thing, why he has not announced, the logical perspective that I can bring to this, or my assumption is he wants to know if the polls are in his favor before he doesn't want to get beat. So if he doesn't think he can run, he's not going to.
All the polls are not in his favor.
No, it looks like Iowa, where he spent a little time, has moved to his favor.
He's ahead in Iowa?
He's ahead in Iowa and even in New Hampshire.
I did not.
Which I believe those are the only two states that I'm aware that he's put any effort into. I could be wrong.
I did not see that.
I just saw that. Saw that this morning. Now, everything else you read everywhere else, and the primary that Trump, even in a general, Trump still looks good. But in the two places that DeSantis has spent any time that I'm aware of, that has changed a little bit. And again, I would be happy with either one of them in the White House. I just want whichever one's going to give us the best chance of getting there. And I do not care which one that is. I just want one of them in the White House, period. I don't know. I don't know the best. I will not say that Trump or DeSantis at this point is the best option, but I lean in the general towards DeSantis having a better chance.
Yeah. No, I'm not.
Do I believe he can ever win the primary? No, I don't. I don't think so. I'm with you completely. I just don't.
So I did look this up. They're tied in New Hampshire, but he is leading in Iowa. You are correct.
And that's without a doubt. I mean, I don't. And I like you said, he may as well now. But I don't. I think that's a technicality or a formality at this point because he's there campaigning. So I don't know that formally announcing is going to bump his polls that much where he's already been. Now in other states that he has not traveled to, maybe. Because then people that have not been familiar with him start to pay a little more attention to him.
No, I agree. So it'll be interesting. I just wish he'd announce so we can get some traction going here. So
you are waiting for that, aren't you?
I want the bloodbath to begin. I'm not joking. I want it to happen.
I don't. I do not want them beating up on each other. That does not benefit our country.
It's fun though.
I'm sure it would be great entertainment, but damn it.
I love it. But
okay, anyway. Any other current events before we move on?
My current events were waiting for your wife to call me and tell me you had been injured in some terrible accident, and didn't happen.
Was safe. It was all fine. BTR JLA news.
Yes. So again, I'm going to give the little top 10 this week, and we're going to do overall hog. And in first is Kinley Cron from Lamesa, Texas, followed by Kenzie Crawford of Tonopah, Arizona. I know I messed that up, but anyway. Then Carla Vasquez from Fort Stockton, Texas, Hunter Stevens from Arizona, Roxanne Coates from Arizona, Maddie Coates from Arizona, Caitlin Thompson, Texas, Natalie Thompson from Arizona, Tally West from Taft, Texas, and in 10th is Lily Reeves from California. And the top score right now is 286, and the 10th place score is 106. So very, very close there. But congratulations to those that are in the top 10 overall hog right now. I want to give a shout out to two of our sponsors this year. The Region 3 hog sponsor is once again the Scott Stedgy family. Scott and his wife and his boy and his children, big hog showers here in Texas. They show cattle too, and they were the Region 3 hog sponsor for 2022, and they graciously agreed to be it again in 2023. So thank you to the Scott Stedgy family for supporting the Region 3 hog kids. And then I also want to give a shout out to the Magnus family of Houston. Gary, Sherry, Casey, and Shelby Magnus, they have again agreed to be a national top 10 jacket sponsor for 2023, and they were in 2022 as well. And so both of those families stepping up in big ways, just doing it out of the goodness and kindness of their heart and wanting to support livestock kids, not promoting a business or anything like that. But we really thank the Magnus and the Stedgy families for their support of BTR JLA.
Thank you very much. It is appreciated. ShowFresh H2O is a homegrown, made in the USA product that provides one more tool to ensure you have your show stock at 100% when they hit the ring. ShowFresh H2O can be picked up at your local supply trailer or ordered online at swampfox.com. Thank you for your continued support of this podcast. Clifton thanks you the most because that allows us to continue each and every week. Thank you, ShowFresh H2O. Now, the no fit versus fit or no fit. Ryan, do you have an opinion on this?
Oh, yes, I have a very large opinion.
It seems to be a hot topic at the moment. While I was gone, something blew up, and I get home and I'm seeing all kinds of information and getting texts about fitting or not fitting at shows.
Yes. And so anyway, this is extremely personal for me. Not because we slick share at major shows or anything like that, but that was kind of the catalyst that kind of set some of this on fire here in Texas. But I am just telling you, over the years I have watched in my home state, and I would say that now 75%, at least 70, 75, I don't know, somewhere around there, of the shows in Texas are no fit. And I mean, like, it is a tragedy. And I'm talking at the jack. I'm not talking about, like, I understand at San Antonio and Houston shows where it's no fit. I get that. I understand all the reasons why. I'm talking about at the jackpot level. There are very, very, very few shows that even make fitting an option here anymore in Texas. And so to all the other states and all the other exhibitors in the nation that are listening to this, do not go down this rabbit hole. Because I am telling you, it is just tragic what has happened here in Texas on this particular issue here. And I am not, I'm going to get hate mail for this, and I don't care. There are a lot of people that are lazy, and they push for no fit shows, and they'll give all these other excuses. No, bottom line is they're just lazy. And so I think the best thing that I saw in regards to whatever caused all this drama was, if you don't want to fit, don't fit. but don't put that nonsense on the other people that do. I got a lot more to say about it, but I'll let you.
Okay. I'm going to start with a real simple answer to this. And Ryan and I, we don't always agree on everything. I think for the most part, we're going to be on a similar page here. But on this topic, and then like Ryan said, I'll follow up with a lot more detail. I'm in favor of both fit and non-fit shows.
No.
From the standpoint, and Ryan made the perfect example. He's used Texas, and I think he's right that if we go down a path where we're pushing no fit shows, we're going to see more and more of those in other states outside of Texas. And I agree with that. But I think that's also the perfect example that the shows should have that option or that choice and allow the show families to decide, okay, if this jackpot show is a fit show or a non-fit show, they can decide whether they want to attend or not. That way the customer decides what they want to participate in. So I'm in favor of both fit and non-fit shows. I don't care which it is, and I can give many reasons why there's just as much effort to succeed in a non-fit show as a fit show. And Ryan brought up the fact that some people are lazy, and that's in every industry. It just is what it is. But I think, and again, we have various levels. We have the county fair level, the jackpot, the state fair, and the national shows. At a national level show, a state fair level show, a very competitive level show, it is my opinion, in again, only my opinion, that those non-fit shows that people want to succeed at, and I can use Houston Goat Show as an example. When we send goats down there to families that bust their butt to work that leg hair and get it perfectly trained so that goat, and we could talk cattle the same, goes in that ring with zero product in those legs, yet they've got the biggest legs in the ring because that hair is trained well. It's got plenty of hair on the legs. All those things are there. That took it took more effort to put that time in at home. And I'm not saying the people that fit aren't putting the time in at home. Don't take it that way. But it took incredible amount of time at home to get that hair to that point that it looks that good without any product in it. So I think that's the main message that I want to get across here. Those that are so in favor of the non-fit show, it may be for the wrong reason, because you're not going to take down those families that are putting the time and effort in at home that maybe you're hoping fall because they're not fitting those animals. And I can go on much, much further and will, but Ryan, your example about Texas, I think is a good example. I do not want show management, all shows, to go one way or the other. I want the exhibitors to have options. Yes, we can fit. No, we can't. We can go to a non-fit show. My request is, if you do have a non-fit show, it truly needs to be that way. And it becomes on your lap to enforce that there are no products going in those animals. They're not fit. Keep it on an even playing field, because those that are not afraid to push the limits are probably going to have a slight advantage over others if you do not enforce that. Do not advertise and promote a non-fit show unless you're prepared to do your best to make sure that it truly is that way. To keep I want an even playing field. And if there's one thing I could ask about this industry, if we could even that playing field out over many, many areas, that keeps a much healthier industry. Your turn, Ryan. I ranted long enough.
Yeah. Well, so again, I'm not trying to be a bitch here, but I value your opinion, but on this, it is real hard for me to stomach, because again, you have not been or competed or anything in a state where you don't have those options like we do. All the shows you go to, you can fit. You can do whatever the hell you want to. So you saying...
Most of them. We have gone to shows that are non-fit, but there are very few.
So you saying, oh, let's do all this other stuff. Yeah, no, I'm against it, because...
I'm all for giving that family the choice. If they want to go to a non-fit show and it's available, go. If they prefer to go to the fit shows, that's up to them. And if it's not popular, if the non-fit shows are not popular, then they won't exist. Maybe that's why they don't exist here.
But that's how it started here. I'm telling you, what you're saying is how it started here. And now we are where we are today. So that's why I'm going to staunchly push back.
More disguised as it wasn't the topic. more hair or no hair. It was disguised under that, but I think you can lump it almost all into the same category.
I mean, but the one point that I do agree with you on, and I want to give you props for this, it doesn't matter if you're slick shearing them, and we're not talking about hair or no hair. That was a different topic. That was slick shear versus hair. This is fit or no fit, but whether it's slick shear or whether it's fitting or non-fitting, or I'm just going to say any rule in general, okay, that you put up there where you're trying to make it generally more fair, so whatever, all this stuff. The people that work hard and are competitive and want this are going to have an advantage the more rules you put in. That's just, that is how it is. Because they will work, just like I said, they will work harder, they will find ways, they will do things to still have an advantage despite those rules that you put in place. And just like you said about growing leg hair on goats and have it perfectly trained, I'm telling you, just like at the major shows here in Texas, Fort Worth, you can fit heifers, but San Antonio and Houston, you can't. It is still the competitive families that end up victorious because, just like you're saying, those animals still look the most fit without being fit.
Exactly.
And so all of this,
that's a point that many people don't. I think many people are missing that part, that they assume it all comes together that day.
Right. It doesn't. No. I mean, but I think the biggest deal that like hurts me and makes me sad is because, like I said, I've watched this in Texas, and fitting is something that every kid, when I was doing this and for years after, like, you just, by and large, I'd say most of them learned how to do it in some way, some fashion, some form. I'm not going to say that we all became artists at it. I know I didn't. I mean, but still, you learned how to do it. And fitting is not just about putting product in an animal's legs and clipping them and all this stuff. It is teamwork. It is learning all kinds of things that you will need later in life too. And that has evaporated completely from my state. Like, these kids don't know what, they would have no idea. And it's not their fault because they don't have to do it. And the other thing that I also think is a big travesty is fitters get a bad rap. They just do. And I have always thought it was complete and total bullshit. And I probably said it on this podcast, but I'm going to say it again. No one in life wakes up one day and is a used car salesman and says, you know what I'm going to go do now? I know nothing about livestock, but I'm going to go be a fitter. No, that's not how it works. The people that are fitters grew up in this industry, are a product of this industry, loved it so much that they want to try to make a living doing it. And I know hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that have made a very good living doing what they love by being a fitter and offering, and they are artists, offering their set of skills to not only junior exhibitors, but open exhibitors, whatever. And they are getting to live out their dream doing what they love. And you start this no fit bullshit, that all goes away. And that is truly sad.
I agree with that. And you brought up a point that we've talked about, I think, or you've brought up before. The fact that most of the shows in Texas have gone non-fit, it is sad that those kids aren't given the opportunity to learn some of those things. And that's what this industry is all about in terms of just educating and preparing them for the real world, giving them as much to learn as they possibly can, and setting examples, all of those things. But it comes back to the fact that I believe, Ryan, and you're right, I worry the same as you that everything would go non-fit. And I don't necessarily agree with that. But why just like we have more fit shows in the north and you have more non-fit shows in the state of Texas, I believe there should be more fit shows. There should be more options for those people in Texas. Unfortunately, it appears if you use Texas as a model, it has to go one way or the other. And I don't agree with that. I am absolutely in favor of allowing both to happen. And I think there should be more fit shows in Texas to give kids that exact opportunity in an ideal world. Maybe the ideal world is not possible because the tide pushes so hard one way or the other. I don't know up here in the north that the fitting is so much of the culture at almost all the shows. I don't know if that tide can truly shift and go the other direction. I do not know what would happen there, but if it does, it may be for the wrong reasons. And I want to continue to reiterate that if everything went to a non-fit show, it still is going to be those families that put the effort in, or the breed, in addition to the breeders that are focusing on some of those things like leg hair that's there genetically. And you can train and work with that at home and put that much more time into it. So it's actually standing up perfectly in the ring with zero product in it. I think people are missing that picture that are on the side of the no fit. And that concerns me. If you're arguing, let's go to non-fit shows because kids have to put more time in at home, I'm all for it. But I'm worried that the argument or the reasons that are tied to the argument aren't necessarily the best reasons for a non-fit show. And again, do I believe fitting takes animals that I think that at the very elite level, the kids are busting their butt at home, or whoever's at home, that team at home, hire a bunch of professional fitters to come in, whatever's going on. It could be that individual kid. The more time that's spent at home training that hair, is going to correlate to success in the ring. And those that are well fit probably also had the time at home spent to them. But, and I can use our goat sales as an example, we put kids up to sell online on a regular basis. And I promise you, we do not have the time to get those kids and work that leg hair at all prior to picture day. But with adhesive, we can bring that hair up that's not trained and put it into a position that looks professional without having to spend that much time into it. So ideally top end, but in that mid-range, families that are putting a little time in, but not enough to have that hair just perfect, being able to fit show day is going to cover some of that up. So I can take both sides of this and argue what requires more time. And I think it depends on those families and how elite those families are and how competitive they are at county fair versus a state fair versus a national show. I personally, when an animal comes in the ring, and I don't care what species, but primarily goats and cattle as far as leg hair is concerned, if that thing comes in big-legged and I can actually see that hair and it looks natural, not just a caked on, plastered-looking, molded shape that you can only see a silhouette on, I like that natural look. That tells me, wow, this one has leg hair. This one's had time put into it at home, not just on show day. And I give preference. My preference is that look that looks more natural. I'm all about fit it as much as you want, but still make it look natural. That plaster Paris molded look that's solid and you don't even see the hair. I'm kind of out on that. And I understand that's probably the minority.
Well, again, I'm kind of extra. So I think what you're talking about in the goats is like when they put the twine and it's all fake and looking. I mean, I get that. And I've said on the mic a million times, said it probably on here, like when it comes to fitting, if you are really good at using fake hair and stuff like that and can do it and it looks natural, then get after it. But just like everything else that has to do with this, if you're not good at it, you're probably better off not doing it because it's going to look bad and detract from the animal. And so I agree with you in some ways on that. But like, and another point that I want to bring up on this fit, no fit thing. Okay. So I think probably right now in our industry, one of the biggest arguments is that, the cost of animals is probably as high as it's ever been. And that, that gives an unfair advantage to families that can afford the more expensive animals, all this other stuff. Do you not agree with that? Do you think that's out there?
That is an absolute, and to a certain degree, not only is it out there, it is accurate to a certain degree, and that I do not see that changing in any manner.
Okay, so I look at things like, and I know Hawaii does it. I think Kansas City does it, but anyway, I think those two shows are two that I know that they have fitting contests. I know Hawaii does. Doesn't Kansas City? I think it does.
Almost all of the national shows outside of Texas have. Okay, Denver has one. Louisville has one, I believe.
Okay, so I didn't know Louisville has. So anyway.
I'm not sure about Louisville, but Denver definitely has one as well. So yeah, most of the shows do.
Okay, so there you go. So here is another venue that kids can practice, train, be in a team environment, all these things. And that venue and that way to succeed has nothing to do with the animal's physical characteristics, all this. This is based on solely how well you can fit and present that animal as a kid. And so when you take that part away, anyway, you're blocking a whole nother avenue for kids that may not have the financial backing at home to reach the ultimate goal in a ring that they want, but they can do it through this way. And showmanship is another one, but we're on this fit, no fit thing. So when you take those opportunities away, things like that go by the wayside. And that is something that I think, again, I participated in fitting contests my whole life at junior nationals and stuff like that. And the kids on my team probably never beat me in the ring, but I'm going to tell you that I went out and recruited the very best ones because I wanted to win. And so we all got to work together and still succeed. I think that is something that is a part that people are forgetting about when they have this argument over fit, no fit. And that is a very valued competition that I think gets overlooked and underrated, and goes back to my point on this. When you start this nonsense, you are limiting in ways that you don't even think of chances for a kid or a group of kids to reach ultimate success without having to worry about what the animal's physical characteristics are.
Agreed. And I think there's a lot of points that are very valid there, Ryan. And I think we agree on those things. It's curious to me, the few shows jackpot level, and I'm not familiar with which ones in Texas allow fitting. Has the no fit been in place so long that people are avoiding those because they just don't feel comfortable fitting? Is that why they're not more well attended, or are they more well attended?
I think it's just the fact that like we're to a point that it's just kind of become the norm. And so like the fit shows are primarily out there in West Texas, and those, you're not going to take it away from them. I mean, like it's not going to happen. But again, it's more steer oriented than heifer oriented out there. And so, but I'm just going to like use my mother as a personal example. She put on big shows throughout the year, several times a year, all this stuff. And every single year at this one particular venue, they would offer her a huge discount if she would make it a no-fit show on the price of rental of the facility, because then they'd have to clean up paint cans and all this, all the things. And she didn't do it, but it goes way past just exhibitor, people running facilities and all that other stuff. And I get all the reasons. And like I said, people think it's going to make it more fair. It is, not nearly as messy and all this other stuff. And, all these things. But because of all these different things that people put out there, that why no fit is better, I think that's just become the norm here in Texas. And again, and there are some shows that here in Texas that they don't. I mean, it's not like you're never going to go to a show, and this is one of the points I brought up to me. You're never going to go to a fit show and you don't fit your animal and you're not going to be allowed to go in the ring. That's not how it works. You know what I'm saying? Like, you go, you know that the majority of people are going to fit. If you choose not to, that's fine. It's, your prerogative, whatever. But it's just the fact that it has gotten to be the precedent here to have non-fit shows on all levels. And it starts at our majors and goes down. I mean, there are county fairs that are blowing show and, all the things. I am not trying to get worked up on this, but until you have lived through what we have in this state on this subject, it is so, it just the more I think about it, it just makes me sick. I mean, it really, really does. And again, I am not going to tell you that I was ever the kid that was the great master at fitting and clipping. I did it every single weekend because we had so many that I had to. And I did enough just to get along and help and pitch in and all this other stuff. But I know so many that I knew kids back when I showed, and still to this day, that would much rather fit one than ever take one in the ring and show one. And that's okay. Where I was the opposite. I'd rather show 100 than fit 10. But it's okay to be the other way too. And it really, really concerns me that this topic, for whatever reason that it did, has got so much traction on social media and up north or wherever this deal took place. It caused this firestorm because until you've lived through what we have down here in Texas, you really have no idea the impact this can have on so many different levels.
No, and I've put a little, while you were talking there, a little thought up here, and I can't think of very many non-fit shows, but I can cite examples when we show up at a jackpot show. Maybe it's a 2-ring show or a 2-day show or whatever it may be. On the I shouldn't say smaller, but on some of the jackpot shows, the exhibitors, there may be a couple exhibitors decide, okay, we fit yesterday, we want to try to not fit here. We've got state fair coming up, whatever it may be. And if all the exhibitors get on the same page that they aren't going to fit, and that is where it has happened more so than going to a show that says you cannot fit. And sometimes exhibitors are perfectly fine with that. They want an easier day. They want to save that hair for a later date, whatever it may be. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially if they all agree to do so. A lot of times 90% will agree. And then you've got a couple that come in the ring that are fit, and it goes all wrong. And that leads me to another area, Ryan, that we haven't discussed. And I want to bring up, and I have a very strong feeling where you stand on this. And I think we're the same. Shows, be very, very careful, because I have not seen success at any show anywhere that tries to implement only allowing the individual exhibitor to fit, family members to fit, or only junior members to fit, maybe only ag teachers, put a wristband on them, paint them purple so they're allowed to fit. Whatever you're trying to do, I can assure you, looking from the inside and the outside of those shows that try to implement that, and I get the concept of it. I love the concept. It just does not work. You're making the playing field even more unfair because you can't enforce it. It does not work well. So be careful going down that path. And we have shows that are out there that implement that, and obviously they're doing it for a reason. I just fear that it looks good in the premium book. It sounds good, but impossible to implement fairly.
Yeah, that deal. I mean, and I've seen every form and version that you can even possibly think of. Like you said, only kids can fit, all this other stuff and whatever. It is so dumb. It really is. It is so dumb because, again, it doesn't matter if you are one of those kids. Let's just take, for instance, like, okay, it's only the kids that can fit or the only immediate family, whatever. You're going to be able to find somebody to come over. If you are not capable of getting it fit, you're going to find somebody that is either willing to help you or you will pay someone, another kid, etc., that can do it to help you. I mean, that is just how it is. So you're not achieving anything when you put those rules in. And again, maybe a future podcast topic will go. I mean, I don't think we've ever had that topic, but unenforceable rules, maybe that is one. But it's just dumb. And I go back to what I said earlier. I don't understand why there has always been this, black aura around what they call professional fitters and all this other stuff, because those are just products of the system and of the industry that got really good at what they can do. And so people want to hire them for their expertise. And I do not see anything wrong with that whatsoever. And, a lot of these people here in Texas, when this no fit all those start, well, not everybody can afford a professional fitter. Okay, I'm with you. I understand that. Not everybody can afford, a private piano teacher or a batting coach in baseball or a pitching coach, all this other stuff. The world didn't stop turning, and there are still kids that have gone on to be whatever they needed to be without those things. And there are kids that have had all the private help that parents could afford to do great things too. That is a part of life. There are people out there in every single industry, every single sport, every single extracurricular activity that are going to be able to have more advantages than other ones. That does not mean that you cannot work your ass off, be dedicated, all this stuff, and not achieve the same things or better than those people. But you're never going to eliminate that from the equation, ever. I don't care what you do. Just like you were talking about on this, agree. Just like you were talking about on this, only certain people can fit. Do the shows and the people that put those rules in not understand that the night before you bring that animal in, you have a fitting crew completely pull every leg hair, clip it out, do it, all this other stuff. So literally you could be one of those people on how to fit one for dummies when the show is 2 days later, pull glue, whatever, and it's pretty much in place. Like, do they not know that?
At the top level, you're probably spending more time and more money to get that fitting crew or that person in to do it all prior to getting to the show grounds. So you're probably creating more of a disadvantage.
Yeah. Do they not realize that happens? Because it does. It does.
I think it's just one of those concepts that it's kind of like a talking point in our political world, that you throw that talking point out there. This is for kids only to fit, and the masses out there that don't understand it jump on board and say, well, this is great. Well, the concept is wonderful, but it's not real. It's not enforceable. Yeah. Just like Ryan said, you're going to put that much more effort in. So when they get that animal washed and blown out, it's pretty much done. It's there. It's ready to go in the ring. So I think the big elephant in the room, Ryan, is that people have this perception, and we travel all over, and I do not help our families fit because I'm terrible at it. My daughter Tara, Katie, our manager Craig is gonna help all those people, assist them where we're allowed to do so at some of these shows, whether it's with hydration or fill or feeding or fitting or whatever it may be. But we do try to bring in the concept. Let's educate them while we're doing it and show them here's what we're doing, and hopefully they're able to learn from that and then eventually move on to doing more and more of that on their own. The issue is, I think, the perception, and maybe even when we show up and help some of our families at the show, the perception that these professional fitters show up and they all of a sudden transform an ugly duckling into the grand champion, and the family did nothing, and there was no education involved in allowing the showman to help or the family to help. That perception, and do some of these things, do fitting teams come in and could care less about educating that kid? Probably so. But I think, as you pointed out, there's a place that if that kid is truly into this industry and wanting to succeed and wanting to learn, they're going to be watching. They're going to ask to participate at some level. Now, those that really could care less if they show animals or not, that their parents are forcing them into it, there's nothing you can do to teach or educate them. They're just not interested. They're not passionate about it. So it's not going to happen. But I think that the black eye, or not a black eye, the image of it just being a professional fitting team that's creating all the success for a given family because they have chose not to do it or want it done better, or their showman or child is not that passionate, doesn't want to learn it. There's that everybody gets thrown into that category. I don't know if I explained that well or not.
No, and I mean, I'm telling you, I have lived through that because I have been very, very transparent, not just since we started this podcast, but like my whole life. I had multiple professional fitters, multiple. And I'm not saying just at the show, like they lived here. They worked in the barn every single day. And again, but I had 50 something head on feed every year. It wasn't like there was 5. That doesn't mean, and anybody that knows me and all of those people that worked for me will attest to that, I was at the barn before I went to school, came to the barn soon as school was out and stayed there till dark every day. I was involved in everything from washing, blowing, all this other stuff. Just because we had hired help and professional fitter didn't mean that I wasn't just as equally as passionate or as anybody that didn't and are involved. So that is all a stereotype and a myth. Now, yes, is there a very, very, very small portion of the people that do this that the kid is not passionate about it, does not really, like if they never stepped in the ring again, probably wouldn't have a big problem? Yes. But you're not going to prevent them from being there. That's going to be in everything. I'm sure there's some all-star American football player whose kid goes out there every Friday night and plays high school football that could give a shit less about it. Okay? But that's what they do because that's what their family expects of them, wants them to do, etc. I can use my brother as an example. Randy didn't hate showing. Randy also didn't care if he ever showed again. He just wasn't into it. And that was fine. Did my parents do everything that they did for me and more for him to try to get him? Sure. Did it irritate the hell out of me? Yes. But it is what it is. And so you're never going to erase that and you're never going to change that. And it's such a minute part of it. I think it's irrelevant. I truly, truly do. Because just like you say, the theory that some average animal that was taken care of averagely by a family that doesn't put a lot into it, and they go to the show, and here comes, this fitting crew team and takes this average thing, fits it up, grooms it up, whatever, and it goes that doesn't happen. It doesn't. It just doesn't. And if y'all believe that, I can't help you anyway.
No, I think some excellent points, and this was a good topic, and one that I hope that the listeners get something from. I don't know that Ryan and I completely agree on it from a standpoint that
we do not.
His fears are if we start to go that direction north, it's going to go exactly like it did in Texas. I don't know, and I think it's so much of the culture here. It would be difficult for that to happen.
You don't think it was the culture in Texas before this shit started?
Yeah, probably. I'm sure it was. No,
the most competitive state in the nation. It was the culture, and this is where we are. Now, it has taken a long time to get there, but I'm telling you, the same can happen to y'all. I'm just telling you.
But what would be wrong with having both? If that could happen? Nothing.
If that can happen and it can coexist, fine. The lazy people can go to the No-Fit show. I don't care.
And you see, and I don't think it's I think those that work harder are going to benefit even more from. If I was going to be I guess, wanting to benefit my family, my kids, our genetics, whatever you want, however you want to look at it, I would prefer that every show wasn't fit, and those families and my kids or whoever we're working with puts that amount of extra time into it and can look fit without being fit. I think the non-fit shows are bigger, are large, are more advantageous to those that work harder, period. So I can go either direction with this. I don't think it should be all non-fit or all fit. Give the people the choice. If they want to go to a fit show, they can go to one of those if on that weekend, or if there's a non-fit show they want to get, whatever. I am with you. I don't want it to all go one way or the other. And it does appear in Texas, it all went one direction. I hope that doesn't, that we both agree on. I'm hoping for that ideal world that you have fit shows, you have non-fit shows, people can make the choice. But I think the point that a lot of people are missing, I would love non-fit shows because we have genetics that have that kind of leg hair. We have families that bust their butt and can train that hair to look the part with very little product in them show day. And that is a huge benefit over some that haven't worked that leg hair and haven't got it just perfect, but we can get there with some adhesive and with some product. So I'm open to either direction. I hope it doesn't go just completely one direction or the other. And I could even go as far to say, well, almost all the shows here are fit shows. You don't have to fit. They're not making you fit to go in, but most people are going to. I think it would be great to see some of both. That's where I'm at. And I do not believe there's an advantage or disadvantage either way to that family that puts in that effort at home. And I'm going to lean the more work at home is going to benefit them even that much more at the show, at the non-fit shows.
And after all of that, all I'm going to say is bless your heart and let's move on because I literally cannot with you.
Understand. You do not believe we can have both is what I'm getting from you. You're afraid the tide will go one way or the other.
I'm just telling you what has happened here.
Yes. And I understand it. I see it completely. I'm asking for an ideal situation, possibly.
Is there
question and answer? I know you
this one ideal. No.
You like question and answer so much. We'll move to that. First one comes from Hannah, and it starts out great. I love your podcast and have learned so much about the show world. It's good so far, right?
Yeah.
This isn't
fall out in a hurry.
No, this isn't bad. I think we've already addressed it in not this exact question. I love your podcast and have learned so much about the show world. What are your thoughts on local breeders judging many of the local county shows? Local breeders judging many of and I think this probably happens across the country, more so in certain parts than others.
I just did I'm fixing to do a whole week of county fairs this week, and I just did one last weekend. And again, I can't tell you how many people come up to me and say, "Why do you judge county fairs?" And it is just because of this question right here. I think more prevalent than on any other level. And this is not me bashing the people that pick judges at county fairs, but they do get people that are close in proximity to the fair. Like she's saying, local breeders, local judges, yada, yada, all this other stuff, because it is convenient. It is cheaper. It is all these things. And I'm just being real honest with you. I think that is the sole reason that there is more injustice at a county fair than any other type of show. And you will never convince me I'm wrong on that because I have seen it go down entirely too many times. Like you will get, I have told people it is easier to win the American Royal than it is to win your county fair. And while I am exaggerating to some extent, the concept is true. And I think it is because just of that. There is more people that are too close to the situation that get to judge. And I'll just say it. There are more people who are picking those judges who have other interests in the greater good of everyone at the county fair that may be picking someone to judge that might lean towards a specific showman, family, etc. And that's just the truth, people. That's how it is. And so when people ask me... And
or the people that are hiring the judges, we're expecting them to be as involved in the industry as we are. And sometimes it's just a mistake because they don't understand it well enough. They're asked to do multiple things, and this is just one of the small things on their plate, whether it's an extension agent or a show board member, whatever it is, whoever is on that. I believe sometimes it's not intentional. It's close, it's easy, it's convenient.
No, I'm not saying it's all intentional, but I would say it is there is a higher rate of it being intentional at the county fair level than way more than at the national or jackpot level. And that's just the truth. And I'll argue with that all day. I do see your point.
There's more of a spotlight on the national. It's harder to do at that level.
I do see your point that some of it is probably they don't know that this person has whatever, too involved with this or too close to the situation. And they just, get somebody. I think there's also a very big portion of the county fair level that the same people have been in charge since 1922, and they're going to use the same damn people over and over and over again. And again, if you disagree with that, then you're just not seeing things right.
No, I agree completely. And I could do an entire episode, Ryan. I'm going to take this. I'm going to step on toes, and it's fine. It needs to be said. I can take it from not only the local level, I can take it all the way up to the national stage. That one of two things is happening. Either the committee or the person hiring isn't in the trenches and doesn't understand how to connect A, B, and C to the judges that are way too close, whether as breeders or brokers or whatever it may be, to that industry that they're financially tied to. And that is going to impact their decisions. No question. You can argue all you want, and I'm not going to listen to it from anyone that doesn't happen. And I think it takes it all the way to the highest level, or those hiring at the more competitive shows just don't know, because there's no other explanation. If it's not a situation, it just doesn't make any sense to those that are in trenches. Sometimes who's coming in to sort those, they cannot have a non-biased, objective opinion on how to sort those animals. And Ryan, we've talked about it in the open breeding shows where we have, you state how we have Angus breeders judging Angus show. It's just, I'm not saying they're not, they're probably the most qualified to evaluate differences and things like that. But to pull back and not allow connections, financial connections particularly, influence your decision is just about impossible.
To answer her question, if I haven't already, I think it's happens far too much. And again, not saying that somebody a county over can't come in and be a fair judge. There is people that can do that. But that is the minority, not the majority. And so, yeah, I don't think it is a wise.
And those local breeders may be the most qualified to evaluate the differences, but it just doesn't work. That's where I'm at it. Wyatt, I've heard both of you talk both positive and negative about show supplements. How does a show family know what products
work? Never
work?
Done no such thing. Lies.
How does a show family know what products work and what products do not? I have done my best to ask many families that show what they like or dislike, and has made it even that much more confusing. This is all you. I've done enough of that. You don't want me to start on supplements.
He is not going to like my answer, but I'm going to say it anyway. First off, I am the one thing that I find the strangest that Dell and I agree on is that we are not supplement junkies. We just aren't. But I would have never pictured that. But we are not supplement junkies. I am also going to say that I do think that there are some that work. I will also tell you that it has been my experience that the ones that I have found that work are ones that are specifically oriented for a specific purpose in most instances. It's not the ones that, you know what, if you feed this, everything's going to be better. But the ones that are fine-tuned for a specific purpose, I find those to work better most times. What I am going to say to you, and you are not going to like this answer, and I would not like it if I were you, it is going to be more than, because you've asked around and you said that you're more confused, a deal of trial and error. You're going to have to try some and see the ones that you think are beneficial and the ones that don't. Because again, I would say, at least on my end, and I think on Dell's end too, the reason that I'm not a supplement junkie is because I have fed just about every single one of them out there and come to the conclusion that I don't think the large majority of them are beneficial. I don't think any of them do anything bad per se, but I don't think they do what they're supposed to do, or I never saw those results. And so it was a trial and error process to get to this point for me. And so, again, I know that's not the answer that you want. You're going to want a list of this works, this works, this works, don't try this. That's not going to happen. But that's my answer on it.
No, and I agree with that one, Ryan, completely. In the fact that you feed something and are expected to see a physiological difference in a matter of time, like you've gone through most of them and didn't see that, it may be doing something, but if it's not significant enough to notice the difference, it's not going to help you in the show ring.
Right.
If that makes sense. And I think that's where you're coming from.
Right. I've never fed a supplement that an animal got harmed. Okay. I personally never have. But also, there have been just a very few that I have fed where I saw a change in the way that it was described or desired or all these other things. And that's why I'm not a supplement junkie, because I've been through them all, done them all. And very, very few of them did I see the results that I thought should happen from feeding that supplement. But none of them ever harmed an animal.
No, absolutely. The only time it harms, and I use with our clients a 20% rule. If supplement is more than 20% of the, replacing more than 20% of the diet, then we start throwing off ratios, and a balanced diet may not be there. So
that's your people that don't feed
described. Oh, just the pig people in general is where I'm at.
You were the one talking about last week about people that don't feed goats.
Yes, I did. The other situation, Ryan is absolutely correct. If something tells you it's a magic wand and it's going to do everything,
it ain't gonna work.
That should be your biggest red flag. It just should
ain't gonna work.
I'm not saying that if we're deficient in a vitamin or a mineral and that supplement has it and you happen to be deficient, that is going to do a lot of good. I get it. But for the most part, if we're feeding and managing these livestock with a reputable feed of any sort, even your local feed at a co-op is going to be balanced to cover your basic nutrients 99% of the time. So barring a deficiency, no one product's going to fix everything. It just doesn't.
Common sense should tell you there is no magic wand supplement out there that fixes everything.
I wish there was. I'd buy it.
If there was, exactly. But the common sense, I think that is something, again, probably another podcast topic. But anyway, in all things livestock show, I think that we have gone by and past the common sense level of a lot of things, and we need to bring
way past. Just went past it so fast we didn't even see it coming. It's gone. Jennifer, our family is new to showing livestock, and I have a daughter that is showing goats, a son that is showing sheep. I'm starved for more information so we can provide our children with tools needed to help them succeed. Outside of your podcast and some showmanship clinics, where do I find this information?
Well, there are more than showmanship clinics. There are clinics that are put on, tells you how to feed, what to feed, how to groom, all those other things. And there are several of those. A lot of them are private. I know that there are ones that, for instance, at a lot of shows, I'm just going to use Sullivan's as an example. At the large majority of shows, that they have a fitting clinic that's free. And so there are those things. I'm sure that depending on where you live, I don't think she listed where she lived. There is at your extension office some information. It would be generic and general, but still there would be some information that is probably available to you. I will say again, and I don't know why people don't do this more often. I think where you learn more than anything else is by you go to a show, you see who's in the winner's circle, and you go up and you ask those people. And you just can't ask them for a book on how to win. But you can go up and ask specific questions, and 99 times out of 100, those people are going to be more than willing to share. I'm not saying that they're going to give away the kitchen sink, but they will share insightful, helpful, meaningful things that will help you. And I think that is way more valuable than anything you could learn in a pamphlet or anything like that. And then the other resource that I'm going to say, since this person is actively out there with their kids showing, is, and I can't stress this enough, when you're buying those animals, find the person, because you obviously said that you're starved for information. Find the broker, find the breeder that wants to help hold your hand. And there are those out there. There are some that are not. And I'm just telling you that some, you're going to go in there, you're going to buy that animal, they're going to wish you good luck. You're going to see them once or twice after that. But there are people that will be involved in every step of the process and are more than willing to hold your hand. That is a vital tool for someone like this family out here, where you purchase your animal from and what level of assistance they can help you with after the sale.
Agreed completely. And there are certain states where the extension office is going to be a good resource. In our world, it's livestock showing is not even on the radar hardly anymore. Texas, I think, is unusual. Oklahoma, a few of the other states. And there's some really good ag teachers. But again, we expect ag teachers to understand horticulture, livestock, it's so many different things. It's hard for them to be a specialist in one. So reach out. I mean, reach out to those families that are doing it. Observe what they're doing at the show. Just watch what they're doing. Sit back and try to learn. Here's what they're doing at the shows each week, and maybe we can make adjustments to that. But it seems like, Ryan, this is a common question that people are starved for that information. And maybe there's not as much out there. There's not as many camps out there as there is for somebody playing soccer or basketball or the local assistants on that level. But they are out there. So search for them. But I agree completely with that answer. Ryan, it's been a good topic. I'm glad this one came up. Hopefully it provides some clarity and some differences of opinion while this discussion is going on in our industry. Until next week, be safe.
Y'all come back now, you hear?